Hey, what's up everyone? It's B the Installer here. And people always ask me what I do with all the extra TVs. Well, here you go. We're gonna do a great video here where we compare QD-OLED to 8K QLED to another OLED to another QLED, ranging from 65 inch all the way up to 98 inch. So if you wanna know what TV to get in your home based on the room size, the lighting conditions, what type of technology you may want, stick around because we're gonna be going over all of it. So if all that sounds good, please smash the like button when you get an opportunity. Really big for the algorithm and the channel in general, and make sure to subscribe to the channel and set the notification bell to all so you're notified when I upload insane videos like this. And question of the day, what technology and sizes are you looking between? If there's a question that's not answered in this video, please comment below. I'll try to help and everyone else will too. Let's get into the comparison. And just before we start, remember we're shooting with a really wide angle lens here, so the 100 inch looks enormous and the 65 inch almost looks as big as the 75 inch, and both of these one in the middle look a little bit smaller than they really are compared to that 100 inch. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Okay, first I want to introduce you to all four TVs. So we're gonna go over here, and of course we have the 65 inch A95k from Sony, which is the QD-OLED that has already won TV of the year. But as you can see, it's the smallest TV of the four. So that is something to consider. But this QD-OLED is very unique because it has this cool stand that can be facing forward or backwards, depending on how it will work in your room. It also has the new Bravia cam on top, and it has 4 HDMI ports on the back. 2 of them are HDMI 2.1, while 2 of them are traditional 2.0 HDMI. So you can game at 4K at 120 on this, but only in 2 of the ports. And this TV also has that awesome acoustic surface speakers that the sound comes out from the screen at you, which is pretty nice because there really isn't much room underneath it for a sound bar anyways. So you pretty much have that, or you're gonna have to have an audio system. First year of this QD technology, very bright and vibrant, but again, 65 inch, 55 inch are your only 2 options. Moving on, next to that, we have the QN800B, which is Samsung's second best 8K QLED in 2022. Very bright and vibrant screen with a very small bezel around the edge, very thin, has a 1 connect box, can hang it on the wall like a Samsung frame or put it on a stand where it's slightly elevated, where you can sneak a soundbar underneath it. And similar to the Sony, it also can pair with certain Samsung soundbars to make sound come out of the TV and give you a taller sound stage. The Samsung is the only one of the 4 that actually has 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. So if you're a big time gamer, you can connect the Xbox, the PS5, a computer, and a soundbar all to this TV, which makes it one of the best gaming TVs there is. Now, one TV that's not represented, and I do feel a little bit bad about that, is the LG OLED, which I'd love to have up here, but we didn't have any more width, and we wanted to get the QD OLED and the 83 inch OLED. So if you want a gaming OLED, most people already know that the LG G2 or C2 are the best TVs for gaming with OLED because they have 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, where the Sony OLEDs don't have that. So if you're going major gaming OLED, definitely go LG. If you're going movie watching OLED, you have a lot of Sony options, and the LG are great for that as well. But back to the Samsung, remember this is a QLED, so this is really great in bright room conditions and maybe not perfect in dark room conditions, but we'll show you that in a bit. But moving on here, we actually have the 83 inch Sony A90J, which was last year's TV of the year, and it's 83 inch in size, which was the first year that they offered an 83 inch OLED. This year, they have an LG G2 in 83 inch, which is awesome, and they have an LG G2, which is 97 inch. Of course, it's $30,000, so it may not be in everyone's budget, but it's still out there, so we thought we'd mention it. But the reason that we have this TV in here is because it's my personal TV. I absolutely love it. It's calibrated and it looks awesome. So it's a good TV to have in here for size and scale, perspective, all that, and to compare against the other TVs. This A90J also has the acoustic surface speakers that come out at you, and that it's an 83 inch, it's so big you can hear that sound fantastically without a soundbar, although I do think it sounds even better with one of the Sony sound systems using the TV as a center. But really the best features of this TV is that it has a heat sink, so it can get brighter than any OLED that came before it. It does have 4 HDMIs, 2 of them are 2.1, so you can game 4K at 120, and it is a movie machine. It looks incredible in a bright room, it looks even better in a dark room, so I'm very happy with the 83 inch OLED, but now that I have all these bigger TVs I'm looking at, I am so ready for a 97 inch OLED. And that takes me to the last TV on the right, which is the TCL 98 inch R754. And man, that thing is just a beast. It is the least expensive near 100-inch TV that I've ever seen, and to be honest, it looks pretty darn good for the size and the price. It has 4 HDMIs, 2 of them are 2.1, so imagine gaming on this massive TV, which we'll show you in a bit. It has downward-facing speakers with the sub on the back from Onkyo, so it's pretty feature-packed in this massive size. There are a couple of things that are a little bit concerning that you should know about, which are that the feet can only be placed this wide, so this table looks like it's about to snap in half because it's so big and heavy, and on the back it has an 850 by 400 millimeter VESA pattern, so you better have a large mount to hang that on the wall. So if you have a large table or a big TV mount and you want a massive TV, there you go. So in this video, we're going to be using an Apple TV and a PS5 to compare these TVs, but first, we should quickly go over the operating systems of them because that might play a role in your purchasing decisions. And then after that, we'll show you some content in a bright and dark room, standard dynamic range, and HDR, and then we'll show you a little gaming before finishing up the video. So I'm gonna hop off stage so that you can see the TVs because I don't think it's super important that I'm standing right in the middle of them. So both Sony's and the TCL share the Google TV OS, which is one of my favorites. So I'm gonna show you how it looks on the 83-inch A90J here. It's a very usable operating system. If you have a Google account, you can log in and get into all these different programs and applications that you may use. It knows that I have YouTube TV, so it's got all this stuff loaded up that people may have watched in the past. In addition, it has a bunch of popular movie shows, all kinds of different content that you may want to watch. And a feature that I like on this OS is that it has a pretty cool ambient mode. It's not exactly like the Samsung frame, but it's still pretty cool to be able to scroll through different artwork if you're not using the TV versus just having it off. The Google TV OS is very quick, and I find that I have very little issues when maneuvering around, going from input back to home, back to input. It all works pretty fast, and I'm quite happy with Google OS overall. So if you're looking for a TV and the OS is important because you're not going to have a third-party device, I would consider Google OS one of the best out there. Then we can move on to the Tizen OS 22, which used to be one of my favorite operating systems, but they've changed a lot, and to be honest, it's gotten a little bit slower over the years. So moving left and right and between apps and sources has all gotten a bit slower. Now you still can find pretty much any app you'd ever want, and a lot of them work pretty efficiently on the TV once you're in it, but just maneuvering is a little bit slower. On the upside, it does have a couple cool features like the game mode where you can see all kinds of online gaming, and you can also connect your Xbox, PS5 and all that into its own screen, and it does have a game mode where you can see a little pop-up menu when you're playing video games. In addition, you also have a pretty cool and robust ambient mode. I like this ambient mode better than the Google TV ones because it has the motion graphics, but it isn't exactly like the Samsung frame, which looks like art on the wall. Though you can put this TV up on the wall, display this stuff, definitely pretty cool. And you don't have to worry about burning because this is a QLED versus an OLED that you might be more concerned about displaying static images for a long period of time. Another feature of this TV is that it has the multi-view where you can display some channels and then have a YouTube video on the other side. You also can connect your phone and maybe share a TikTok or a reel while watching something else if you want to do that instead of trying to shove your phone in everyone's face in the room. And you can choose to have volume on one or the other. So it has a lot of cool features. I loved picture-in-picture back in the day, and this is basically the same for the 21st century. Short attention spans, we need more content. So there you go, Samsung provides. And even though we don't have it here, the LG operating system is pretty decent as well. I actually prefer it a little bit more than the Tizen, even though both the Tizen and the WebOS both lost their pop-ups from the bottom that everyone loved, and now they have full home screens. Not sure why they did that, probably to sell more ad space, but everybody liked that LG pop-up. Same with Samsung. I wish they kept it, but I just want to let you know that the operating system for LG is just fine as well. But enough about these operating systems. Let's look at some standard dynamic range content or your typical cable that you'd be watching in a room that's set up like this with some light on, and see which one of these TVs is most impressive to you. So I don't know about you guys, but I watch my cable on YouTube TV, so let's turn on some NFL Network and see how training camp's going. So a couple of things to think about when you're watching SDR, cable, or sports in your home, and those are which one of these TVs are going to be bright enough and handle the reflections good enough that's going to allow you to enjoy the content that you want to watch. And another thing is which TV can handle the motion and the upscaling from taking this lower quality and bandwidth signal and moving it up to a 4K TV or an 8K TV. When it comes to brightness and quality, most people understand that the QLED TVs are able to get the brightest full screen picture. So if you're watching watching sports or news or whatever it may be, and brightness is key, then you might want to look to something like the Samsung 4K or 8K QLEDs, which are known to be very bright and vibrant. And if you're looking for something larger, they have 85-inch or even 98-inch Samsungs and TCLs, as you see on the right. Both of these TVs look really great, full screen brightness and in a bright room, but the Samsung looks even better because it has great anti-reflective properties. The TCL, on the other hand, doesn't have that great anti-reflective coating, which we'll show you in a bit. The OLED TVs, on the other hand, aren't quite as bright full screen when you're watching typical SDR content. You probably notice in this comparison that the two OLEDs are a little bit more dim than the QLEDs, which is known and should be understood when you're purchasing a TV. But are OLED TVs bright enough for content like this, knowing that they can get that amazing individual pixel level control and be able to show super bright highlights against a black screen in a dark room? So things to think about. I've always found that the OLED TVs are just fine for watching content like this. I don't have any windows behind me that reflect directly on the TV, but sometimes when I'm watching movies, I will shut off the lights so that we don't have to see those reflecting. And speaking of brightness, we thought we'd put a couple lights on to show you that each of these TVs reflects differently. So this TCL on the far right is probably the worst at handling reflections of the four TVs. As you can see, it's fairly bright and it's very distracting when you're watching. So you probably will want to watch this without any lights directly on the TV, but yet the brightness of this QLED still helps in beating down that reflection a bit. On the other hand, both Sonys have very good anti-reflective properties, but remember, the OLED isn't as bright as a QLED, so you'll still see more distractions in the background of an OLED TV in general. And lastly, the Samsung QLED on the middle left is the best at handling reflections because it refracts and minimizes that light that comes back at you. The only downside is it does create a bit of a rainbow effect that some people don't like, so you'll have to let me know in the comments which of these TVs is best for viewing in the daytime. Which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments. But let's move on to some HDR content. So for watching HDR, we thought that we'd darken the room a bit and make it a more realistic environment for movie watching. So on the far left, we have the A95k QD-OLED, which won TV of the Year in the 4K division. And in this setting, in HDR content, it looks the best in my opinion. It's very bright for a darker room, and it has incredible color volume. Probably one of the most remarkable TVs I've ever seen. The only downside is it's only 65-inch. And sitting next to a 75-inch Samsung to its right, it may be a bit underwhelming, or you may not be able to appreciate how good it looks because sometimes brightness and size trumps quality. And that Samsung 8K sitting next to the A95K is extremely bright and vibrant in this setting. It's the brightest TV by far, but it has its own issues. It is a QLED TV, meaning that light comes from the back of the screen out, and it is kind of hard to control that light in some conditions. Traditionally, Samsung has been pretty good at using the local dimming control in order to minimize that blooming, but this year it seems to be a little bit worse than last year, which was a little bit better than the year previous. So it might be a situation where the QLEDs have gotten as good as they can get, and now we're reverting to try to get a little bit more brightness. We're losing a bit of that lighting control in a darker room like this. Now this is 4K HDR, so the fact that it's an 8K TV doesn't really matter. There is some 8K content, but I don't find that there's enough to justify 8K just for the sake of 8K, but 8K does provide the best features in a brand's lineup. On the right of that is the 83-inch A90J from Sony, which I've already told you is one of my favorite all-time TVs. It's my personal TV and I absolutely love it. It's a beast watching HDR movies like this. The picture is incredible and the sound is incredible, and once you have an OLED of this size, it's very difficult to enjoy a QLED TV or a smaller OLED TV once you see the size and the quality of this picture. And even though Sony doesn't have a new 83-inch OLED, LG does in the LG G2, which is significantly brighter than this A90J. So the LG G2 is the best large screen TV of 2022 with its brightness improvement and the size. It's one of the best TVs that I would consider over the 65-inch because I'd consider getting a QD-OLED. The only problem is they don't make them at this size yet. So I'm hoping in 2023 that they make the QD-OLEDs in 83-inch and larger sizes so that more and more people can experience that great technology. But really, the only TV so far in 2022 that has made me consider compare a different product over my 83-inch A90J is the 98-inch TCL on the far right. Because this TV has satisfied in both a bright and a dark room with both SDR and this HDR footage, the immersive experience that you get from something of this size is really hard to quantify. I had no idea what I was getting into when I got this TV from TCL, and to be honest, I'm very happy. It looks great for watching your typical regular content, and even in a darker room, this QLED has a nice and vibrant picture with minimal blooming for a TV of this size and price range. Of course, this TV suffers from a little bit of the blooming that the Samsung TV does, but I think we should show you how that can affect dark room performance before we get into gaming. To show you how a QLED can suffer in a darker room, we wanted to show you this blooming test from an angle to show how the light can kind of bleed through the screen and cause a bit of distraction when watching a movie or something in a darker room. As you can see, the OLED and the QD-OLED don't have this because they have individual pixel level control, meaning you literally can have a pixel that's off right next to one that's perfectly white, and that just can't happen with the QLED TV. So the TCL and the Samsung do take a hit from angles and even from straight on when you're watching widescreen content or watching something that has subtitles. This is something you should just know about QLED TVs. If you're going to buy one, there may be some blooming. So blooming is something that you'll notice when you're watching darker content in a darker room, but if you're watching bright and vibrant content in a brighter room, you might notice what's called the dirty screen effect, where the light uniformity is not even across the screen, and when you watch something that moves left or right, or if you're watching a subject like this hockey player move across the screen, you'll notice that dirt behind the screen if it's present. Traditionally, QLEDs are sort of the worst when it comes to this because the light isn't as uniform. OLEDs typically are a little bit better, and the new QD-OLEDs are almost perfect in that they have very little uniformity issues. The TCL on the far right doesn't have perfect uniformity, but it's not terrible for the size, and to be honest, I've seen a lot of TVs with worse uniformity. My Master Series OLED that I've had for over a year looks pretty good in comparison. The Samsung, second from the left, isn't perfect, but it's not terrible. Traditionally, Samsungs can have some of the worst screen uniformity, so be wary if you're buying a Samsung. Make sure you check that out and keep that quality control level up for Samsung. And the A95k on the far left looks nearly perfect. Very little uniformity issues, if at all, and I'm very happy that the QD-OLEDs are coming out so nice. But now that we finished this test, let's wrap the video up with some gaming footage. To be honest, I'm pretty happy with any of these TVs for gaming. A very low input lag when playing 4K at 120, which you're able to do on all four TVs. Of course, the Samsung is the only one of these four that has 4 HDMI 2.1 inputs, so you get more gaming features on that Samsung. And similarly, the LG OLEDs, as I said before, are really great OLED gaming options. But as I've reviewed many of these TVs, they're more than acceptable for playing 99% of games out there. But really, the larger you go in size, the better for immersive gaming experience. So this TCL on the far right is awesome. The Samsung 98-inch had a little bit more gaming features and was a little brighter as well, but really, if we had that 97-inch LG G2, oh, maybe that would be the ultimate gaming TV, hands down. But what do you guys think? What's most important? The size of the screen, the technology, how it can handle things in a bright or darker room, or what content is most important for you? Let me know all these things in the comments below. Ask questions, others will answer. I'll try my best to answer as well. Make sure to smash the like button on the way out, subscribe, and set the notification bell to all so you're notified when I upload a new video, and I'll see you on the next one.